The first thing she said to me was, "Turn your phone off." Not hello, not you must be the journalist. Just that, standing in the doorway of a white farmhouse with her arms crossed and the particular expression of someone who had been interrupted before and was establishing terms before it, happened again. I turned my phone off. "Good," she said. "Come and meet the bees. My name is Phoebe. I am 32 years old and I have not turned my phone off voluntarily in approximately 6 years. I work for a city magazine, the kind that does lifestyle features with beautiful photography and just enough substance to justify the photography. And my editor sent me here because urban beekeeping was having a moment and someone had told someone who told her about a small honey farm 2 hours outside the city run by a woman who had inherited it from her father and whose honey had started appearing in the kind of restaurants that required reservations 3 months in advance. The angle was supposed to be quirky, a city story about something slower. A weekend, a feature, a photographer coming Saturday. The beekeeper's name was Saoirse. She was 36, with dark red hair that she kept in a loose braid and hands that were always doing something, checking a frame, tying something, moving with the constant purposeful restlessness of someone who had a great deal to take care of and took all of it seriously. She did not seem particularly interested in being featured in a city magazine. I agreed to this because my friend Maya thought it would be good for the farm, she said, walking me through the orchard toward the hives without looking back to check if I was following. "I want you to know I did it for the farm, not because I think this is," she gestured vaguely, "important." "What would you consider important?" I said. She stopped walking and turned to look at me. It was the first time she'd really looked at me, and it lasted long enough to be noticeable. "We'll see," she said, and kept walking. The hives were at the far edge of the orchard, 12 of them, white boxes in 2 rows, humming with a sound I felt before I heard it, a low collective vibration that seemed to come from the ground itself. Saoirse suited up with the efficiency of someone who had done it 10,000 times and helped me into a borrowed suit with the matter-of-fact physical ease of someone who didn't think twice about adjusting another person's veil. Her hands at my collar and then my cuffs, checking the seals without asking permission, because in this context, permission was assumed and efficiency was care. "Stay close," she said. "Move slowly. Don't swat at anything. What if one lands on me?" "Let it." She looked at me through her veil. "They're not interested in you. They're interested in the flowers. You're just geography." I thought about that. Being just geography. "What if I'm scared?" I said. "Are you?" I looked at the hives, the sound of them, the air around them visibly alive with movement. "A little." She nodded once, like that was acceptable. "Tell me if it becomes a lot," she said. "Otherwise, just stay close and breathe." Inside the hive was a world. I don't know how else to describe it. Saoirse lifted a frame with her gloved hands and held it toward the light. And what I saw was order, impossible intricate order, every cell perfect. The bees moving across the comb with a purposefulness that had no chaos in it. Everything going exactly where it was supposed to go. "How do they know?" I said. "What to do?" "They feel it," she said. "The hive has a temperature, a humidity, a chemical language. Every bee knows the state of the whole from the information." Moving through the group, she tilted the frame. "No one's in charge. Everyone knows." I watched the bees move and thought about the open plan office where I worked. 40 people in a space designed to encourage collaboration. Everyone on their phones, no one knowing what anyone else was actually doing. "That's remarkable," I said. Saoirse glanced at me. Something in her expression shifted, slight, almost imperceptible, like a door opening a crack. "Yes," she said, "it is." She replaced the frame with a care that I recognized as love, though I didn't say so, and moved to the next hive, and I followed, staying close, breathing, being just geography in a world that had been running perfectly, without me for a very long time. The afternoon she put my hand on the outside of the hive. We were on the 3rd inspection, and I had stopped flinching and started watching properly. And she noticed, I could tell she noticed, because her attention changed quality, became something more interested, and she said, "Give me your hand." I gave her my hand. She removed my glove and placed my bare palm flat against the wood of the hive, her own gloved hand over mine, pressing gently. The vibration came through the wood immediately, not the sound. The feeling of it, a warmth and a hum, that traveled up my arm and into my chest and sat there like something I recognized from a long time ago. Feel that? She said. Yes, my voice came out quieter than I expected. That's 40,000 bees, she said, all generating heat, all moving. Her hand stayed over mine. The hive runs at 35 degrees year-round. They maintain it themselves. In winter, they cluster and vibrate their flight muscles to stay warm. A pause. The colony has been alive, in some form, for longer than either of us. I stood with my palm against the hive and felt the 40,000, and thought about warmth generated collectively, and what it would feel like to be that certain of your place in something. Saoirse removed her hand from mine. I left mine where it was for another moment before I took it back. Thank you, I said. She looked at me, that full assessing look again. You're not what I expected, she said. What did you expect? Someone who would want the bees to be a metaphor immediately, she said. Before they'd actually looked at them, I thought about my recorder in my jacket pocket, switched off per her instructions, about the angle my editor wanted, about the 300 words I'd already composed in my head on the drive. Hear about the romance of analog, life and the return to slower rhythms. I'm trying not to do that, I said. I can see that, she said. Keep trying. That evening, she didn't suggest I leave. She also didn't suggest I stay. She simply began making dinner in the farmhouse kitchen with the efficiency of someone cooking for one who had decided, without announcement, to cook for two. I sat at the kitchen table and watched. Her hands move and asked if I could help, and she said, "You can talk to me while I do this," which I understood was its own kind of answer. So I talked, not the interview questions. Those felt wrong in this kitchen, in this light, with the smell of whatever she was making, and the sound of the farm settling into evening outside. I talked the way I talked when I wasn't performing competence, which was a mode I accessed rarely and valued enormously when I found it. I told her about the city and the speed of it, and how I'd started to feel like I was always filing something, impressions, conversations, experiences, before I'd actually finished having them. How the feature I was supposed to be writing felt different now that I was here than it had when I pitched it. How the hive had felt under my hand. She listened while she cooked, and her listening was active and specific. She asked the right questions, remembered what I'd said 3 sentences ago and connected it to something new, gave me her full attention without making it feel like attention. You do this all the time, I said. Listen like this. The bees require it, she said. You can't manage a hive if you're somewhere else in your head. It trains you. She set 2 plates on the table and sat across from me. Or it selected for me. I was always like this and the bees suited me. Which came first? I don't know anymore, she said, and smiled, the first full one I'd seen. Unhurried and genuine, changing her whole face. My father used to say the farm chose him. I thought that was romantic nonsense when I was young. And now? She looked at her plate. Now I've stayed when I didn't plan to, and I'm not sure. I chose it so much as recognized it. She glanced up. Does that make sense? More than most things I've heard this week, I said. She held my gaze for a moment. Then she picked up her fork. Eat, she said, before it gets cold. I had planned to drive back to the city Friday night. I did not drive back to the city Friday night. I told myself it was the wine, 1 glass each. A honey mead she made herself that tasted like something the season would have tasted. Like if the season were a drink and the hour, and the dark country roads. These were all true. They were not the whole truth. The whole truth was that I was sitting on the porch steps with Saoirse in the cooling evening, our shoulders almost touching, watching the orchard go dark, tree by tree, and I had not thought about my phone or my recorder, or my word count in 3 hours, and I could not remember the last time that had been true. Tell me about your father, I said. She was quiet for a moment. The orchard. The bees settled for the night, their hum reduced to something almost inaudible, a presence rather than a sound. He was a quiet man, she said. He talked to the bees more than he talked to people. I used to think that was strange. She pulled her knees up. Now I understand it. The bees don't need anything from you except presence. They don't need you to perform or explain or justify. You just show up. Pay attention. They do the rest. When did you lose him? 4 years ago. Simple, direct, the way she said everything. I came back to help with the farm for what I thought would be 6 months. I was living in Edinburgh. I had a life there, a good one. She looked at the dark trees. I kept extending the 6 months. Do you miss it? Edinburgh. Sometimes, she said. I miss the person I was there. She was less, she paused. She moved faster. She had more opinions about things that didn't matter. A small exhale. I don't know if I miss her or if I'm relieved she slowed down. I thought about my own speed, the filing before finishing, the phone that had been off for 6 hours and whose absence I had stopped noticing somewhere around the second hive inspection. Can I ask you something personal? I said. You've been asking me personal things for 3 hours, she said. Not unkindly. More personal, I said. She turned to look at me. In the porch light, her face was open and a little careful and very present. Go ahead. Are you lonely here? The question sat between us. The orchard, the bees. Yes, she said simply, without defense or performance. Sometimes, not always. The farm is full, the work is full. But there are evenings, she stopped. There are evenings when full isn't the same as not lonely. I looked at her. She was looking at the orchard. Saoirse, I said. She turned. We were close on the step. The porch was narrow, and we'd been sitting closer as the evening went on in the way of people who have stopped managing the distance between them, close enough that I could see the particular dark green of her eyes in the porch light, and the small scar at her temple that I'd been curious about since the afternoon. The scar, I said before I'd decided to. Her hand came up automatically to touch it. Hive inspection, 8 years ago. I got careless. She lowered her hand. The bees teach you about carelessness very efficiently. Does it hurt? Not anymore. She looked at me steadily. Why are you asking about my scar? Because I've been looking at it all day, I said. And I wanted to know the story. Now you know it. Yes. We looked at each other. The farm was quiet around us. The deep rural quiet that had seemed oppressive when I arrived and now felt like something I wanted to stay inside. The photographer comes tomorrow, I said. I know. And I'm supposed to file the piece by Tuesday. I know that too. The piece I planned to write, I stopped. It's not the piece I want to write anymore. She was very still. What piece do you want to write? I thought about 40,000 bees generating heat collectively, about a frame lifted toward the light, about a hand over mine on the warm wood of a hive and a vibration that felt like something I'd been missing without knowing. I was missing it. An honest one, I said. I'm not sure my editor wants an honest one. What would an honest one say? I looked at her. That I came here to write about slowing down, and I actually slowed down, and it was completely different from writing about it. I paused. That the bees are not a metaphor, that presence is not a lifestyle choice. It's a practice, and you can't fake it in a weekend feature. Another pause. That I met someone who has built an entire life around paying attention, and I've spent 3 hours trying to do the same thing. And I don't want to stop. The porch, the dark orchard, the quiet farm. Saoirse looked at me for a long moment with the full attention. She gave everything. The hives, the frames, the particular quality of evening light on old wood, and I felt it the way I'd felt the hive under my palm. Warmth coming through. Stay for the weekend, she said, quietly. The photographer can do his work. You can do yours. And after the weekend? She looked at the orchard, then at me. The city is 2 hours, she said. The bees require attention every week. Someone needs to document that properly. The corner of her mouth moved. For accuracy. For accuracy, I said. The piece will be better for it. The piece will be much better for it. She stood and offered me her hand to help me up, practical, direct, the way she did everything. And I took it and she pulled me to my feet and didn't let go immediately, and neither did I, and we stood on the porch of her father's farmhouse in the dark with the orchard, quiet around us, and the bees settled for the night into their collective warmth, and I thought, this is what it feels like to be somewhere completely, not filing it, not composing it, just here. Come on, she said softly, her hand still in mine. I'll show you the night hive check. They're different after dark, Finn.